G'day, and in today's video we're looking at how you summon the dragon on the Fjordur map. We're going to go through each of the different caves and artifacts that you need to collect and how to get them, as well as finishing off with where you find the dragon summoning point and what I use to fight the dragon. Anyway, let's get stuck into it. Okay, the first cave we will look at is the Cave of Mount Doom at about 90.8 to 77.9. It's a fairly short run cave that runs in a linear path straight through to where the artifact is, but you'll find creatures like the Arthropura, Pulmonoscorpus, Arianos and other things that you would expect in a lava cave. You do need to take care that there will be Desmodus on the ceiling as you fly on through or ride on through, and then once you reach the other side where the lava pit is itself, you'll find the artifact of the immune. Next up we have the Forgotten Caverns at around 7763. When you look down into the water you will see a glowing crystal structure, and that actually signifies roughly where the entrance is. From there you'll basically head off to the side and travel down a short little tunnelway which will then have a crack in the ground, and you need to go down there. Once you've gone there a short distance you will actually emerge into the cave itself, where you will then find a number of rather interesting things within the cave. There is a pirate ship that is crashed under here, although you can't actually access the pirate ship itself, it's just a feature that you can look at. But that main entryway, when you first come in, you're actually going to want to turn right, and there is a further cave that goes down. There's traps and pits and all the rest of that sort of stuff that you will need to deal with, along with the earlier cavern with all the creatures of the Arianos, the Onyx, the Arthropuras and Titanobels and all the rest of that kind of fun stuff. But once you've actually traversed all the traps in this cave, you will then come across the artifact, and the artifact is the artifact of the Cunning. Next up we have the Bear Caverns at around 9.984.3, and it's a mixture of like swamp-like creatures and redwood-like creatures with dire bears, Meganeura, Thylacoleo, snakes, spiders, etc, etc. So lots of fun things in there. So Megatherium does quite well, basically taking on the Meganeura. It gets the buff for eating chitin. You'll eventually come across a fork in the path. It doesn't really matter which way you take, left or right. The right hand way takes you to a funnel little room which looks like a giant beehive, whereas the left hand path is the one that I tend to take, which has a lot of cave loot along the way. And yeah, you'll find a number of different spawn points for the cave loot. They're usually up quite high, so bringing a Desmodus for getting up there or some climbing hooks and things like that will be handy. And then once you've managed to get yourself around, you will have to duck through a few little spots, but then you eventually come across the artifact of the strong. The last cave is the Frozen Fortress at about 823.9, and this is like the hard ice cave where you find Palovias, polar bears and yetis in the cave at very high levels. And something like a Rex is really good at being ignored by the Palovias hiding under the ground. But along the way there's a rather interesting point where you'll see almost like a red glow, and you can hear the sound of one of the drops. And it's actually hidden in the wall, which you can break down and then find yourself a loot drop in there. Otherwise it is actually a fairly short run through this cave, albeit that it is a very difficult cave, and eventually after you've jumped over a few sections or flown over a few sections near towards the end, you will eventually come across the artifact of the Skylord. Now, for the last part before you can summon the boss, you'll need to take down the world boss Hati and Skoll. You'll find that by taking yourself over to Asgard and then heading to the coordinates 20.5, 37.2, where you'll find the summoning stone. Now I pretty much just took in the creatures that I took to beat Steinborn, as I already had some imprinted and leveled gigas, and they're pretty much just going to wipe the floor with anything that you really fight. So bring along your boss creatures of choice over to your Skoll fight, pretty much treat it as a boss fight. They're quite powerful, they summon in some wolves, they have ice attacks, they have fire attacks, and so all kinds of fun things that you need to deal with. And then once you've defeated those two, you will then have their artifacts which will assist with the summoning. For those people who need to find the summoning point for the dragon, it's a cave at 86.2, 4.9. You'll need to travel down a short flight of stairs and you will come across the summoning point fairly readily. And that brings us to the end. From here you'll just need your creatures of choice. Mine happens to be the Therizino, as it gets a bit of an extra boost if you give it the sweet veggie cake for some healing, and it just helps it deal with that dragon's breath, which does a percentage of damage to the creatures. One thing to keep in mind is that the arena, being slightly different to the original, has lots of places where the creatures can get caught on and they can fall in the lava, making it interesting to try and get the creatures out and managing the fight. But, you know, the creatures that I took in with the Theries, they had a base health of 15,700 to 800 melee after about 20 levels. So they actually started with about 12k health and around 600 melee after I'd imprinted them and mutated them. So yeah, it came in with a fairly strong army. And from there you'll basically pretty much just focus purely on melee, as the fight with the dragon tends to be a damage race with the percentage damage done by the breath. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure that you go and give the video a like. Subscribe if you'd like to see more, as I've been doing all the other boss fights so far. And we just pretty much have the Fenrir fight to go. Alright, thanks once again. Subscribe to see more, and I'll catch you in the next one.